The Battle Cats is a game with a lot of different units. Combined, they all have many different unique functions, roles, and stats that make a ton of different strategies possible. So, let's ask a simple question. Who's the best unit in the entire game? Let's look at Ubers. Is it Casley, Daughter of Chaos, a contender for the best Uber in the entire game, with broken stats in both survivability and damage output, a ton of immunities, and most importantly, the ability to create an active hitbox death wall that juggles and prevents all non-heavy enemies from pushing forward, and with almost a 50% uptime on it. If that wasn't enough, she can even remove the ability of almost every enemy in the game to inflict debuffs on your units. A broken unit and one of the best in the game for sure. But is she the absolute strongest? No. What about Battlerock Cat? A melee unit with gargantuan stats, can pretty much hit every enemy in the game for huge damage, and with strength and activated does 1/3 damage in a single hit every 2 seconds. All while costing the same price as Dancer Cat and having a cooldown of less than 30 seconds, meaning you can spam him and completely break the game from raw power alone. Is he the best unit in the game? Close, but I wouldn't exactly say so. What about non-Uber units? Is it Can Cat, a completely game-breaking super rare gacha that has comparable power stats to some standalone Ubers, but costs 675 and is on a 12-second cooldown, also giving you double money for every single unit it kills. This silly little unit somehow manages to hit almost everything in the game, and there's pretty much no reason not to bring this to every single stage in the game it isn't outright banned on. Is Can the best unit in the game? A very close competition, but at least for me, no. What about Cyberpunk? A unit you can stack on most stages to completely break them, and even when not stacked makes a huge impact by supporting the field with slows. Nope. The awakened Bahamut Cat that carries you throughout the entirety of mid and late game? Also no. How about Courier, who completely screws over 2 whole traits and manages to break a ton of other stages in the game with raw stats? No. Is it the Erasers? Of course not. But it is a meat shield. The unit I've chosen doesn't actually seem too strong at first. It doesn't even do 10,000 damage at max level. It doesn't do any crowd control effects, and it even kills itself after attacking. This unit is Boulder Cat, the best unit in the Battle Cats. Boulder Cat, better known as Rock or Rock Cat, is an unlockable drop you get from clearing Possessed by Evil, or the Advent stage with Evil Emperor Cat. Taking a look at Rock's stats, one statistic in particular immediately jumps out, which is the HP. Rock has over 500,000 HP at level 50, which is just plain absurd. This unit can pretty much take any beating it wants and still remain alive, which does make it sound really overpowered. But there is a catch. Rock Cat destroys itself after attacking, which in its case would be the moment it reaches the front line. This takes what would be a completely indestructible wall into a completely indestructible wall that lasts about a second. What's the point of all this HP when Rock kills itself, you might ask? Well, for that singular second where Rock is on the field, he ensures the enemies can't move forward, kind of like the Iron Wall cannon. So you should be able to see how this can be very useful. Looking at other stats, Rock has a fairly low price, 360 being very cheap compared to other units in the game. It's more expensive than traditional meat shields, but less expensive than traditional tanks. Its damage at 7.5k per rock isn't the highest, but it is able to hit every enemy in the game, and those small damage increments will add up over time. Rock also has an immunity to every CC ability in the game, except for Toxic. These are very useful for making sure that Rock reaches the front line and walls the enemy regardless of who they are. All of these things combined together sound great, but there's one key aspect of Rock that is by far the most important part of him. You can have his HP, his damage, or even remove all his immunities, and he'd still be a fantastic unit. This is because the most important part about Rock is his cooldown. At 146 frames, or about 4.87 seconds, Rock comes back very fast and allows him to be used not just as a temporary tank or wall, but as a full-on meat shield. Combined with his life duration of 40 frames, the average Rock tends to wall enemies for about 2 seconds. This means that when using Rock like a meat shield, for about 30 to 40% of the time, the enemies are completely unable to make any forward progress along the field, regardless of which kind of enemy they are. Well, besides extremely large amounts of toxic enemies. But this ability to rapidly come back and continue walling enemies turned Rock from a utility into a game-breakingly strong defensive unit. Most specialist meat shields are strong versus a single trait, like Ramen against angels or Shigong against zombies, but Rock is indestructible to any trait, meaning you can, quite literally, use him everywhere. And I really do mean everywhere. For every single stage in the game where Rock isn't outright banned, he's a fantastic pick on that stage. This is something that can't be said for any other unit in the game, even other rival top units. Another important part about Rock's stats I didn't mention earlier was his speed. It's 84, which is incredibly high. This makes him the second fastest unit in the game, exactly 1 speed slower than Bullet Train. Did Rock really need this insane amount of speed? Probably not, but he has it anyways, and it allows him to be a great meat shield at reaching the front line no matter how far away you play from the base. This allows Rock to be accurate when far away from the base, and Rock benefits a ton from being timed to wall enemies appropriately. You see, Rock stops when it hits an enemy, and if you get your Rock to land while the front line is knocked back, then that Rock manages to prevent all enemies from pushing forward. While if you just let Rock hit the frontmost enemy that is pushing forward, the backliners may get a chance to move up to where Rock landed. Timing Rocks can be used to protect units and give them time to attack, as well as permanently stalling certain enemies. Rock's ability to die after attacking also means that he can be deliberately timed to make wave or surge enemies miss. You may know that Rock is a fantastic answer to Cappy Jr. because of this, perma-stalling him and preventing surges from going off that could otherwise destroy your units. Let's just go over some of the many things Rock can do as a result of all of these stats and ideas. Rock can be spammed as a traditional meat shield, be timed as a support meat shield, protect units at will by acting as a temporary wall, act as a fast staller to reach far away parts of the stage quickly, can be used to make enemies miss, can be used to permastall certain enemies, can deal chip damage to any enemy in the game, can act as an anti-crowd control meat shield, can act as an anti-wave or surge meat shield, and can basically do anything you ever have wanted from a defensive unit. He makes your other units stronger with support walls, and can hard carry many stages in the game. Remember, the Iron Wall Cannon temporarily walls enemies for a few seconds, and is balanced around having a cooldown of 50 seconds. Rock has a cooldown of 5. Where is the balancing here? I don't know. But wait, we're still not done yet, because there's yet one more thing that makes Rock somehow even better than he already is, and that is research combos. Using research combos, you can lower Rock's already low cooldown and create even lower downtimes. With 3 research up small combos, Rock's cooldown is about as low as 2 seconds, and with a typical stalling time of about 2 seconds, it doesn't take much thought at all to realize how broken this would be. And well, while Rock doesn't solo and full wall every single stage in the game with these combos, with just a little support, he pretty much can. The most important part about this synergy is not just that Rock is being deployed much faster, but also that your other units benefit from the research combo, giving you extremely powerful offense and defense. This quickly ends up breaking stages with everything combined, but research combos honestly deserve their own video. I think that everything I've stated so far should make it clear why Rock has a case for the strongest unit in the game. But to solidify my personal choice as the best unit, let's compare him to the 2 other strongest contenders for the best unit in the game, being Can and Balrog. All 3 units are pretty broken in their respective ways, being incredible on almost every stage in the game, having broken stats and abilities, and doing things that no other unit in the game can match them otherwise. But I think that a few things place Rock above the 2. The first is that, although rare, there are stages and situations where Can and Battlerock wouldn't be a good idea to bring to the stage, such as if the front line of a stage is too messy and is simply untankable for Rock, or tends to juggle Can. These two units also have to land their hits to earn their value, while Rock simply has to reach the front line, which it will always do. You can always T-bolt or use support to enable Battlerock or Can on these stages, but Rock is consistently powerful for the whole duration of the stage. I also think that offensive roles are much more replaceable than Rock's defense and utility, and even though no other unit in the game will output the destructive damage of Battlerock or the risk-free damage on everything that Can provides, there are many other broken offensive options in the game, while there aren't actually too many broken defensive ones. Similarly, Rock synergizes with other units well and can enable a lot of them to work much better, while Battlerock and Can are much more individualist in how they do damage, where they tends to be the one who likes support, and where other units can cause them to miss their big damage hits. The final nail in the coffin for me is that Rock is a rare cat and an advent drop. This means that in 4-star restrictions, where there are a ton of in this game, both Battlerock and Can are going to be unavailable, but Rock is still usable there. Rock being a guaranteed advent drop also means you can consistently get him 100% of the time, while Battlerock and Can are both gacha units that you might not get until super late parts of the game if you are unlucky. I know, Can is pretty common due to being a super rare, but there still are some cases where people in UL end up missing certain super rare gacha units. Rock being an advent drop means that this will never happen, and you can always get Rock reliably. So with that summed up, is Rock the best unit in the game? To me, yes. In the context of the full scope of the game, I would personally deduce that Rock is a stronger unit than any other one. But what if I told you that Rock also isn't the best unit in the game? Well, we need to talk about something important. Something core to how ranking units in the Battle Cats works in the first place, from tier lists to my opinion here that Rock is the best unit. And that is methodology, the way units are judged and which aspects are valued in a unit. Maybe you think that 4-star stages are much easier than the late game content of 3-star UL or max level Barons, so Rock's 4-star rarity doesn't matter, and as a result, Battlerock is the best unit in the game. Or maybe you believe that Battlerock is too inconsistent to get due to being an Uber, and that something like Can is obtainable in the early game and hard carries you for a longer portion of it than Rock. Can would be the best unit in the game. What about if you don't like heavy investment into units, or think that the Cat Claw Dojo is the most important part of the game due to being an actual competitive part of endgame? Dark Casly would be the best unit in the game. What about a unit that completely breaks progression, is always obtainable, and snowballs you well enough into late game that you'll have enough firepower to take it on easily anyways? Then maybe Courier is the best unit in the game. What I'm trying to say here is that, depending on what you value, and what methodology you want to use, there's a lot of units that could be good picks for the best unit in the game. This game isn't concrete, and people play the game in different ways, meaning that many different things can be of different value to each individual player. While Rock is the best unit to me, he might not be to you, and that's perfectly fine. When looking at rankings or tier lists made by other people, always remember that methodology plays a big part in how they are done. Don't just go see something and automatically think it's a trash tier list because the unit placements are off from your own, because people do judge things differently. On the contrary though, you shouldn't just believe every ranking you come across to be perfect because it's judged differently. There can still be flaws in a tier list even with a custom methodology. What I'm trying to say here is, maybe you should just look at rankings or tier lists with a bit of nuance. Have a good day everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.